Hi, I'm Maggie.
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
A Very Bookish Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to A Very Bookish Podcast. This is episode 35, and we have a very special guest. We have the author of Twisted Love and Twisted Games. Hi, Ana. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
We're so excited for you.
Grace, I think, is the most excited to have you on. Grace will not shut up about it. Grace literally sending group chats like stuff, and she's like posting about it all over her story and stuff. All she's been talking about, maybe she was really obsessed with the Maddest Obsession.
Oh yeah.
Daniel Laurie, like this is like up there with her like obsession level where she was just like nonstop talking about it, nonstop thinking about it. I know she's gonna be in a reading slump after this because that's what happened with that series. I have a feeling you're gonna cause her to have a reading slump because she loves it so much already.
Definitely.
Oh no. I kind of love and hate that in equal measure. And that I love that you're loving it, but I'm sorry if it puts you in a reading slump.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like I kept seeing Twisted Love all over TikTok, and then I found your account and it was just like, oh yes, another author on TikTok. And then I started following you, and I just every video I was like, oh, she's killing me. I need this book in my hands. And then I was just like, you know what? After, because I like finishing series.
Yeah.
I went away from that for like a while. With my whole fantasy phase, I was like, oh, I'll start this series and start that series. And I was just like, too many series at once. Let me go back to my basics, start a series, finish one. And I can say that everybody on BookTok right now is like during that like spicy contemporary phase. And so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna get into it. I got through the Maid series and I was like hoping to finish it so I could start Twisted Love. I read it and I fell in love with it. It just gave me everything that I was looking for in other books, and it was just there. And I was so pleasantly surprised and I fell in love. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. I thank you for giving it a chance. And I honestly, I love for your story reactions. They are so, sometimes I'm like, which chapter does she just, because you don't tell me the chapter, it's just like a reaction. So I'm like, okay, I think she's on the scene, but I'm not sure.
I'm trying to keep my reactions because now I was lucky enough to receive an arc for Twisted Games, which I had manifested myself for. And I was just like, okay, I do a lot of reactions on my IG stories. So like I need to be, this is my first time really getting one. And so I was just like, I messaged you like, how do I do this? And then I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do reactions without saying anything. And a lot of my followers who have been now excited for Twisted Love and have been reading it, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Your reactions don't really tell me. It's just so much emotion. And I'm just like, trust me, it's all good. It's all good. And yeah, so I'm sorry if you follow me on Instagram and you see all my reactions. It's just, they come out. I can't stop them.
They're great, honestly.
Yeah. I definitely am going to be filming like a reaction video, like a reading vlog for mine, because I'm going to be reading it from like 10 p.m. to like 5 a.m. because I'm like,
oh my gosh,
I'm staying up to like take my parents to the airport because they're like, oh, we're leaving at like 4:30 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read the whole time. So I'm definitely gonna be like recording my full reactions for it. But spoiler warning for everybody ahead. We will be talking spoilers for Twisted Love because it has already been out for a while. So we will be saying spoilers for it. Grace, do you want to talk a little bit about the shop?
Oh yes. So before we get into the book, after my whole fangirling moment, we do want to announce that we have our pre-sale for our enamel pins for Castile and Cassian from the ACOTAR series and from Blood and Ash are up on our shop for pre-order. We still have about a week and a couple days left in our pre-order sale. So make sure you guys go to our Etsy and order yourself our very first pins that we have been talking about for almost a year now.
Almost a year. Like it will be a year in December, I think. But yeah, we are filming this actually before we launch the pins, so we don't know how well we've been doing, which is going to be interesting for when the next episode is Calvin. We're going to be talking with him, and we'll probably have a little bit of update on that. So you'll kind of get our like delayed reactions, but thank you if you have bought it. I will have everything linked down below, and I will have everything linked for Twisted Love and Twisted Games because it is actually the 30th, and so Twisted Games came out yesterday. For those who are listening on Friday. So kind of to start this off, do you want to tell us like how this series came to be? Like, how did you think of this series when you were like writing Twisted Love?
Yeah, so it's funny because Twisted Love actually ended up being completely different from how I had originally planned it. It was originally just supposed to be a straight up like new adult college contemporary romance without any of the mystery or the suspense. It was actually, so in my original planning of it, Alex was actually still in college with her and he was going to be her TA. He's based very, very loosely on actually someone that I knew in college.
Okay.
Who was my TA. So
love that.
So, yeah, but you know, I was writing it and it was just not, I wasn't really feeling it, honestly, like the original iteration. And I'm like, this needs like a little something more. And so I basically scrapped the whole thing and I added, so the way I write, I actually write a little backwards. A lot of authors, they write the book first and then they write the blurb. So I actually write the blurb first before I write the book. Like I kind of write the first few chapters and I write the blurb just to make sure that it's focused. And so I was kind of writing it and I was like, okay, I need some way to spice this up with like a little bit of a mystery and suspense. And then around the same time, I remember reading an article about HSAM, which is the memory that Alex has where he can like remember all of the details that happen in his life. And I was like, oh, this would be interesting if, you know, this was like a character trait. So it was mostly just me like brainstorming ways to make it a little more interesting. And then with the whole girl group, I love seeing female friendships in books. So I think we, especially in new adult, I think we see a lot of male. We don't see enough of females, I feel like. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like we don't see enough of female friendships in new adult. And that was always something that I try to put in my books. I really like to see kind of like healthy female friendships. I feel like there's a lot of the dynamics I think is always like, you know, like girls fighting over a guy or kind of, you know, being catty toward each other, which I think is good in like certain parts of drama. But for me, I really like to see those like healthy female friendships. And so I ended up putting this group together. I have a thing with the number 4. I don't know why. Like it's always like 4 books in my series and 4 people in a friend group. Don't ask me why it is. But I ended up.
It's really good for like these like new adult like smutty romances. Like 4 is like the magic number where it's like the series. It feels long, but it doesn't feel too short, and you feel like there's enough development of plot over time.
Yeah, I think it's a really good number because then it's like 3 is like a trilogy and it's kind of, I don't know. I always enjoy reading 4 book series. I don't know what
it's better on the bookshelf.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I ended up, you know, coming up with the girl group and it just love kind of to what it is today.
Okay. Yeah, because we see like, I mean, like the most popular one, Elle Kennedy, or like Penelope Douglas, where they have like the Devil's Night series where it's like 4 guy group, or like you have the hockey team and stuff, but like seeing like the girl side of it is really nice.
Yeah, I know that was definitely something that I liked about this series, because usually you're just gonna get the guys who are connected and who you see their friendship, which I love. I love a good guy group and friend. Like that's my sweet spot. But I started with like all the books that I had been reading, it had been mostly focused on that. And I felt like I needed that like girl group that was like really bonded together. And even though they're like the best of friends, they're college friends, they go off and do their own things, but they're still together. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure as the series progresses, we'll see how their bond comes together and how they still stay connected. But it was really a really nice thing to see, and how all of them have like their own personalities, and how you can kind of see where this series will go for each of them. You're just like, oh, she's a little timid. She needs somebody to take her out of her own comfort zone, or she's a little out there. She needs someone else to challenge her, and all these other ones. I gotta say, I think I have a feeling who Jules will end up with.
Oh, I know who Jules is gonna end up with. I've already. If Jules does not end up who I think Jules ends up with, I will riot. I will riot. I will text you. I will be DMing you. I will send you weekly updates. Like, you better know this is who Jules ends up with. Just remember when you're writing it. Just remember this is who Jules ends up with.
I get a lot of messages even after Twisted Love came out. I got a lot of messages about Jules and a certain person.
Yeah,
it's made pretty obvious.
That is heavily shipped.
It's
Is it?
it's I think it's because we have seen so many of their type of bickering that we're just like, But
I see what you're doing. I see you. We see what you're doing, and we like what you're doing, but we just make sure you have to do it.
It's too many breadcrumbs. It's more that I'm excited if that's where it happens, but definitely, yeah. So I guess my next question is, who did you said you had inspiration behind Alex? For Ava, how did like her character and her storyline kind of come to you?
I think it's kind of a mix. So I always knew the basics of what she would be like. It was always supposed to be an opposites attract kind of story. So I always knew she would be kind of this very like sweet, sunshiny kind of character. I actually didn't know. So Alex was probably the most fully formed character in the series. Like I always knew exactly what he was going to be like and how his reactions would be. Ava, I think I kind of felt her out a little bit more as I was writing, and she like surprised me a little bit. She was a little sassier than I had intended her to be. But I think it was good because I like, even when I write sweet heroines, I like heroines who have kind of at least some kind of strength. Like they don't always need to be kind of like the physically badass character, but I always like characters, even if it's like an inner strength. I kind of like that. And so for her, it was mostly exploring her and trying to add like a different facet to her personality besides her just being like, you know, like a very nice, sweet girl, which is fine, but a little boring when you're when you're reading that in a book. And so I actually added in the whole part about her nightmares and her background. My books tend to revolve around certain themes or like overarching motifs. So obviously the one about memory is a big one in Twisted Love, both with Alex's memories as well as Ava's. And so I kind of had that mirror each other and, you know, have them help each other work through their own issues regarding that like one aspect of their lives. So
yeah, that was something I really did like about how both of their memory was very opposite, as well as like their personalities are very opposite, but also kind of like their own traumas and things that they deal with was very opposite. Like he remembers every single aspect of his life, and she has this huge period of her life that she cannot remember. And I thought that that was a really interesting play on like that whole theme, and it was really cool. One of my favorite things about Ava too is that she is not really looking to depend on anyone. Like she's not wanting anyone to help her to, she doesn't feel like she is missing a piece of her. And like Alex sees this and sees her kind of suffering alone and wants her to like realize like you can do this, you can go off and you can walk, you can swim, you can do all these things on your own. And you know, fast forwarding towards like the end of the book where she decides I don't need anyone to finally let me swim, I can do it on my own. And I thought that that was a really interesting thing, because usually in books we'll see like the guy come in and help her overcome her fear, and then he's there with her every step of the way, where in this one he kind of gave her the tools to do it on her own, and then she took it from there. And I really really liked that. And I thought that that was like so her in a sense, because like yeah, she's very sunshiny and sweet, but she is very snarky and cheeky. And I love that so much. I was like, yes, Ava, yes.
I love when a female character is like that. Yeah. Where it's like it's the she's not like docile, but like she still has like spunk in her, but just because like she's bubbly and she's grumpy. But so like kind of leading into that, like when you were writing all of these interactions between the two of them, how is your thought process, especially in the scenes of like the one bed trope? That scene was iconic. He is not a gentleman. I think that, where I was like, man, I would love to be his whore. I was like, damn, I'd love to.
Oh my God, I think a lot. You know, honestly, if Alex showed up, I'd be like, yes.
So like, I guess my question is like, do you like, when you're writing these, do you just like write them down, or are like you thinking about like the scene in your head, and like as you're writing it you're kind of like envisioning it as it's like, is it like a movie, or like how do you envision these kinds of scenes?
Yeah, so for me it actually plays out like a movie in my head. So I see it. And it sounds, maybe it sounds a little trite, but like I think a lot of writers will tell you, like for us it's not even like, sometimes I have to sit there and think very hard about what happens, but a lot of the times it's like the characters take on a life of their own, and they will say that's why like sometimes halfway through the stories they end up taking a completely different turn from how I had anticipated them going. And you know, they have a life of their own, and when I'm writing these scenes between them, I kind of like, I know what the characters are like, I kind of inhabit the headspace, and so it kind of just comes out, and I see it play out very clearly in my head as if I am watching like a TV show or a movie, and I'm kind of like just transcribing what's happening.
That is shown, like the writing, it felt like I was watching it on screen. Like no lie, like I usually with certain books, like yeah, you end up having a certain way where you visualize it in your head when you're reading it. And some people it's like flashes of pictures and things like that. I think, and me and Maggie, we almost direct it in our minds of like, we see the camera kind of zooming in on them and all of these things. And it like hit me a couple days ago that both Twisted Love and Twisted Games, I honestly feel like they could be TV shows with how they're going and like all that happens. Like this is, if it were a movie, I'd miss so much. I need all of this. So I would like to see it as a TV show. So
fingers crossed. Netflix, if you're listening to this.
We have your next
hit me up.
I read this book. I read it in like 5 hours. I read Twisted Love so fast. Like we had a meeting because we're planning a trip for California. I'm gonna go out to see Grace and stuff. And so with our friends Melissa and Eamon, and shout out to Melissa and Eamon, hey guys. And like it literally like 30 minutes after, I was like, and I was like sitting on my thing and I was texting with my friend Liv, and I was like, what book should I do? She's like, Twisted Love. And I was like, okay. She's like, Twisted Love. And I was like, oh. And so I started, and I could not put it down. It's fast paced, yet like not, because like so much happens in the book, but it's such a page turner where I was literally updating maybe like 25% every hour, where I was like going like, I was like, the first hour I put in the thing and I was like, I'm 25% of the way through. And then I continued reading, and then I was like, I'm 50%. I was like, what? It's not even over. And like so much stuff, the stuff with her dad, I was like,
Yeah.
how did you imagine, when you wrote this book, did you know that the stuff about her, well, not her dad, but her dad, did you know that was going to happen?
I sort of did. So I always knew writing this book, it wasn't going to be her mom. Like she thinks it's her mom, but it's not. And so I kind of always knew it was going to be her dad. A couple of things that happened, I did not anticipate. So the part about Alex's uncle, I think that kind of popped up halfway through as I was writing the story. And it's, I think part of it is part of the writing process. So for me, every time I'm writing a chapter, every time I'm writing a scene, and I'm really happy to hear that it was a page turner for you, because one of the things when I'm writing a chapter scene is, okay, like how do I reveal new information, or how do I end this in a way that will make the reader want to continue reading, or something that will surprise them, or something that will like intrigue them. And so, halfway through the chapters, I'd be like, okay, what's a strong way to end this? And I usually ended it up with like revealing a couple of the plot twists, or like adding a few of the plot twists. So I think that was built in organically into my writing process as I was trying to think through ways of how to make things a little more interesting, and to ramp up the drama a little bit. There was a lot of drama interested.
There was a lot of drama. I'm like, okay, one thing happened. I'm like, okay, that's the thing. And then a couple chapters later, there's another thing. I'm like,
yeah.
And then don't even get me started on Twisted Games, because that one.
I'm so excited to read it. I'm reading another book right now, and I love it, but then I got Twisted Games, and I was like, I've been eyeing it. I've been at work most of the day, but I've been like eyeing it, and I'm like, I might finish my book tonight and then start it tonight. But kind of to like can go into, this is kind of veering off path, but I just thought about it when you were talking about it. The men on the covers, how did you decide which men to put on the covers, and like how did you decide, like what was the process of getting the covers done?
Yeah, so I know part of booktok feels some kind of way about people on covers. I personally love that. Like I love both of my covers. Okay, I think the alternate covers, they're beautiful. The men on covers, I love them too. So the cover process, I actually get all of my covers done before I write the book. I'm like that kind of person. I need the title, I need the blurb, I need the cover. It motivates me to keep writing. I'm like, okay, I've spent all this time, like I have to finish the story. I can't not finish it. And so behind the scenes, so there are certain photographers that do, so I bought exclusive photos for the covers for the Twisted series, and kind of this is to give you kind of like a little bit more into like the nuts and bolts behind the logistics of putting out a book. So usually you can either choose between stock photos, which is like photos you find on like Shutterstock or Deposit Photos. And that's why sometimes you see a lot of the same photos on book covers, is because they are stock photos and like anyone can use them. And then there's exclusive photos, which are a lot more expensive, but you will be the only person who can have that specific photo. I mean, the model will have other photos, but you're the only one that gets that one. And so I really wanted to kind of step up my cover game a little bit with this series, because I think a cover is probably one of the most important marketing tools of a book. It's the first thing a reader sees when they're browsing Amazon. Like they're not even going to look at the blurb if the cover doesn't catch their eye. And so I had a vision in my head of what Alex looked like. And I think the cover for Twisted Love is probably the closest I can imagine him being in terms of the options available for the models. And so it's actually really funny because the model, I had him on my Pinterest, like my private Pinterest board as my inspo before I started writing. And I had no clue that he actually did book covers. I was just like, it's just some like random guy that I found on Pinterest. And then so as I was looking for photos for the book cover, I actually saw him on another cover on Amazon. And I was like, wait a minute.
I know you. Wait.
I was like, does he do book covers? And so usually like the author will credit the photographer and the model in the inside. And so this one did, and I looked into it. I contacted the photographer. They gave me a gallery. I chose the one that ended up being on Twisted Love. And then I worked with a designer who was great. We worked together on a concept of what we wanted to look like. And it ended up, you know, the way that it is. I think I wanted something that was very on point for the new adult genre, which is like kind of these black and white covers with the male models on the front. And then if you know, all of the letters like love, games are kind of, they reflect the theme of the book. So the love on Twisted Love is actually water. And then the one for games obviously is gold for royalty. And then
Yes.
My guilty pleasure is like the covers with the men on them, like the throttled series, like Lord Asher. I have the male. Everybody gets like the like discreet covers is what a lot of people call them. But I'm like, no, I want the men. Like I am buying this to read about the man. I should be able to like open it up and then look back and then open it during sexy scenes. I should be able to imagine it.
I love that. Yeah. I love the male covers. I think they don't get enough love on booktok, but
yeah, his like Alex's the model's eyes, they like every time I would see it on my feed, those eyes would just like look at me and like trap me in. I was just like,
all the eyes, both eyes, you're kind of just, they're kind of like the lighter color eyes, and you're just kind of like,
they're like just
when you look far away, you're like, do they have any eyes? Because it's so white. You're like,
yeah. But then once you get up close, you're just like,
oh.
I know. It's like piercings. They both, especially in black and white, I think it makes it stand out a little more. Yeah. I had someone, I don't remember where it was. I think it was like on Instagram where I did my cover reveal for Twisted Love, and I saw a comment somewhere where it was like, I want to lick his eyeballs. And I'm like, I don't recommend doing that, but I get the sentiment.
I mean, you could technically lick the book cover, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess you can if you want. I don't know. I don't know if that would be pleasant, but
yeah. And so when you were like kind of putting together of how Alex looked, you said that was as close as you can get. But like, are you one of the authors that also kind of like celebrity casts?
I'm really bad at celebrity casting, honestly. I'm terrible. Like people ask me, they're like, who do you fan cast? And I'm like, it's
the model.
I'm like, on the book cover, I don't know. I think part of the reason is because I have a very specific image in my mind of what the person looks like, and it's very hard for me to find someone in real life who matches that. It's always like they're kind of close, but not really, you know. Or maybe they do exist and I just don't know about them yet, in which case, you know. So I honestly, I hate it when people ask me, they're like, who do you fan cast as this person? I'm like, I can't even tell you a celebrity because none of the celebrities I know match what I have in my head.
Great, because like we were like kind of mentioning this last time with Amen about like it's so hard to kind of like get like a specific, because like we know like there's a whole bunch of like fan casts on TikTok and like, oh, this is so and so, this is so and so from a cover, and that one video may give, because me, I'm more about like the essence of the person.
Yeah,
they give that like dominant kind of cold-hearted, strong, fierce vibe. If they give me that and they kind of look like them, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see them playing this person. But then as soon as like I go to their profile and look at the rest of the videos, I'm like, no, Never
I
mind.
know. It's always like, okay, there's this one specific photo or like this one specific video that gives off that vibe, but then I'm like, okay, I can't look at the rest because the rest just do not fit. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pretend it's just this one photo.
And sometimes it's like not even their full face. It's like zoomed in and something like half of their face. I'm like, that's enough. I don't need to see anything else.
Yeah.
Or you'll ruin the vibe.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because like, a lot of other authors are just like, oh, I casted this person, or this person was like a placeholder for this character. But sometimes, what is actually out there is nothing compared to what's actually going on up there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, because like it's funny that like I was talking about how like I look at the covers and stuff, but Alex doesn't have a face in my mind. Like Alex just is faceless. Like, because we had this conversation last week about like I don't like it's so hard to like because everybody has such a different idea of what the character looks, and that's like the beauty of reading is not everybody is gonna have the exact like same like, oh, this is what Alex looks like, because even you said like the model on the cover isn't exactly what you imagined him to be. And like I was like, when I like read, I think of it like a movie and stuff, but like I never fully see their face. Like I'll see like a jaw or like the hands or like
The hands.
like or like from like the collarbone down and stuff, but I don't ever see like the full face, which is I think why I get the man covers.
So you can imagine. No, I'm actually the same way. I actually feel the same way when I see the scenes. I see everything else very clearly, and then the characters, like I do know what they look like, but they're always the blurriest for me in terms of like I get an overall sense, but it's not like crystal clear detail the way some of the other parts of the scene are. So
when you're writing some spicy scenes,
oh my gosh,
what is your process for writing spicy scenes?
Oh God.
You're the first spicy author that we've had on, so you're getting
really?
like, yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're setting the tone.
So I definitely do not write these in public. I
Not like me. I wrote a full smutty scene in the break room of Barnes and Noble.
Oh my God. Okay, that's goals. You're surrounded by lots of inspiration in Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah, it's a bookstore series.
Oh my God. I hope there's some like stack action.
It's in the stacks.
Yeah.
It's in the stacks. Sorry.
No, I am very excited for that. I love some stack action.
But yes, so like do you like when you are writing it, are you like, okay, I want this and this to happen in the scene, or is it kind of more of like you're imagining it in your head and you're like, okay, this is what Alex like would do, this is how she would react, like how did you pre-plan it, or is it like more of a like flow?
It definitely flows. I cannot pre-plan any of the spicy scenes. They do not it would end up, I think, feeling very stilted if I tried to plan them. So I have to be in a completely separate headspace to write them. So usually when I'm writing the story, I will, once I hit a spicy scene, I'll just put like insert X, and then I'll write the rest of the story. And then I go back and I specifically spend like a day writing those scenes. And they're pretty, they're actually very difficult, I think, for me. Like some of them are easy. And then there's other ones, like there's one specific scene in Twisted Games, I don't want to give it away, but in like the gazebo scene, that was a very
Grace.
like
is that the kink that you have, Grace?
Not telling you.
It was very hard for me to write that scene, because the thing is, you have to not only make sure that the technical parts of it, but also to make sure it doesn't sound like it's just like, A goes into B, or like, there has to be a certain flow and a certain kind of chemistry there. And so for me, I do a lot of rewriting in terms of like, okay, this is what they're doing, but how do I inject that kind of like passion into it, as well as their personalities into it? if if you've read Twisted Love and you've read Twisted Games, the spicy scenes seem to follow like a general trend in terms of like alpha males and stuff like that. So that's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, it's I don't even know. It's very hard for me, I think, but once I get into the flow of it, I think it gets a lot better. It's really just getting it started. And then I think part of me is also, I used to have some inhibitions about writing like full out spicy scenes. I used to be a lot tamer. I get like embarrassed writing some of the things that end up happening. And then now I'm just like, screw it.
I was gonna
I
say,
don't care.
it definitely doesn't show that you're embarrassed, because I mean, your girl was sweating.
Yeah.
There were times I had to like, whew, what's that TikTok sound? It's just like, whew, let me catch my breath. Man, that was me. Yeah, but I definitely see that I'm a big person, like every time I read like a spicy scene, one thing that I love for authors to include is like a little communication in their,
Is there the communication that I think what I'm
maybe, I don't know. You won't know until you read it, okay? But I do like some communication. And when I was reading like about Alex and all the things, man, that he would say, I was like, whew, I'm not prepared. I know there is an animal under there. And then when I got to read, I was like, there's
always the quiet ones.
It's definitely that one.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I just want to start reading like now. Like I'm literally I'm like halfway through my other book, and I'm like, well, now I'm like gonna probably like push myself to like, because this one's really good too. So I'm like, well, and it's a duology too. So I'm like, do I read the other one and then read Twisted Games, or like do I just like I might just read Twisted Games.
You won't be able to. You'll give it up. But I definitely will say that the passion and like that fierceness that both Alex and Rhys have, it's very like clear in the moment, and it comes across that like need to be with that one person. And even for like the girls, which gotta say, I appreciate that we get sexy scenes with the guy's POV, because hardly happens. It's more like the girl living through it. But then like we got Alex, and I was like, sir, you are
It makes me want to reread Twisted Love too now. And it's been like less than a week.
I gotta ask, what was your favorite spicy scene? From Twisted Love. For
Twisted Love, the phone scene is my favorite. That's funny, because that scene, I don't remember where I saw it. I think it was like a meme somewhere that someone wrote once. It was like, oh, like I would love like if I was like on the phone and like this is really hot. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna write that scene.
Man, it was pretty good. I mean, come on, who hasn't, thought about that? And here we have it. And
gotta mix business and pleasure,
you have to. I gotta say, like, I was very, very jealous of Ava in that moment. I was a little jealous, a little bit.
So, kind of about Alex. So I'm Ukrainian too. So when I saw that, my Goodreads update was like represent, and then I just put a ton of Ukrainian flags on it. So like when you were like deciding like ethnicities and stuff for characters, like was it just kind of like this is, since you already had Alex like pre-planned and you were like, okay, he's gonna be Ukrainian? Or was it something like, kind of how when you found about the the memory stuff? Was it just kind of like, oh, I'll add this in?
Yeah, for him, he was always supposed to be Ukrainian. I don't know. There's just something about Russian and Ukrainian men, I think, in books.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
That I just love. And so I haven't written one before. And so I was very interested in, and I think I kind of, you know, I don't want it to seem like a stereotype, but you know, and I think like it didn't make sense for me for him to be, say, like Italian. Like it just didn't, I feel like that just wouldn't fit with his personality.
Yeah,
and so
I see what you mean.
Yeah, so he's always been like cooler, a little bit more reserved, and that just seemed to fit him a little bit more than some of the other.
Yeah, I agree. I was excited too. I was like, because we get a lot of like Russian.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like, oh, we're from Russia, but there's a difference between like Russia and Ukraine. And I was like, oh, she singled out my motherland. Thank you.
Gotta show them some love.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, thank you.
Oh, this is definitely a special one. And then like with Ava, she's Chinese American too.
Mm-hmm.
And you are as well. And like how did you want that to be like transferred into your writing and your story?
Yeah, so I tend to love, you know, like Asian heroines and stories. Obviously, I'm Asian, and I think it would be great to, you know, see them have more representation in books, especially I think new adult, and not, you know, there are books that are specifically like, okay, this is like an Asian American book, which I think is great, but I love to see characters that are a little bit more incorporated into romance without it being like a focus on their ethnicity, you know what I mean? So I love seeing characters where it's obvious they're diverse, but without centering their entire personality around like their ethnicity. Like I honestly, like as a Chinese American, I'm like, that's probably not even in like the top 10 of like my defining characteristics as like a person. And so when I was writing her, I sprinkled in a few little things about her culture in the background, in the way that she interacts with her family, the family dynamics,
the number 4,
and the way they celebrate Thanksgiving, like very like small, subtle touches. But I mean, for the most part, like she lives life like a normal college student. Like when I went to college, my life was pretty similar to most like non-Asian students. Like there's not, you know, so it's not, so she is like, I always try to add like at least a little bit of cultural references there, but you know, they're just normal people. And I try to have that come across in my books and, you know, give that representation without it coming off like I'm trying to
like meet a quota or something.
Yeah.
And that's like something that like Maggie and I talk about like often when we're talking about representation. Like, yes, like BookTok is like, that's their main thing about like pushing this issue, and like, and sometimes it comes across as not good representation. Like I always say this when I'm reading a book and then like I come across a Hispanic character and then I just see them being like overly Hispanic. I'm like, that's not how we are. We're normal.
We're still late to a lot of stuff.
I mean, we're still late to a lot of stuff.
Grace is I grew up in Miami, so I can I went to a lot of quinceañeras that were like, it starts at 7 p.m., 9 p.m. We're like, all right, we're starting the party. It was a lot of fun.
Because like, okay, so yesterday I had a baby shower for my sister. Well, not my sister, but she's like close enough to me that I've called her my sister most of my life. And on the invitation, on like the Facebook invite, it said starts at 3, starts at 3, ends at 6. Like, okay, it's like 2:00, and then me and my mom, I'm like, oh, we're gonna head out, right? So we have to go, and it's back in LA, which I'm like an hour and a half drive from. So I have to drive over there. We get there like at 5:30, and we're like, oh, we're here for the back end of the party. It's fine, like no worries. And then we're there, and then like other people start showing up, and we're just like, okay, we're not the last ones, right? And then my sister comes along. She's like, okay, we're about to start the games. I'm like, about to start the games? I thought you were wrapping this up. And she's like, girl, no. And I'm like, you're right. I forgot. We ended up leaving there like around like 9:30, almost 10. And I was just like, yep, that's how we are. So some things, those stereotypical, are very accurate. But the rest of it, to make accurate representation, you don't need it to make their entire thing. You can describe how they look and if they have an accent or things like that, but everything else is very subtle in how they are, to show where they're from. Like, you wouldn't be able to like differentiate this specific country from that specific country unless you knew that person in their entirety. Like, we're just reading pages off of a book, so there's so much more vital to the story than just their ethnicity and just their culture. There's more that makes them a well-rounded character than just where they're coming from, who they are, what makes them them. There's a whole list before you get to ethnicity, like you said. And I really like that, even within the group, that like you get like kind of like their descriptions of what they are and where they come from, but it's quick and then onto what actually makes them them. And I thought that was really good. And I really like that you as an author, you also feel that way, because it's kind of hard for a reader to kind of look at these authors and then see authors not understand that balance between representation and everything else. And then with a lot of other readers, especially on BookTok, who push this agenda and make it into something that it doesn't really need to be. It's just complicated. But it was a nice touch, and I like that.
Thank you.
I felt that it made it, because I feel like there's sometimes like there are a lot of romance books where it's like it's so I read a book. I forgot which book specifically. It was a NetGalley arc, but it wasn't the one I just read. It was a different one, and it was like, and it heavily like their culture influenced everything. And it was definitely the book. The romance was about like having romance in that culture and stuff. Versus, and I enjoy that and stuff. But like, it's also really nice when you have like this like just regular smutty romance that it's not. It's more about the plot, and it's more about like, and yes, about like who they are as a person and stuff. It's more about the like funny scenes. But like you still have that representation where it's like it's not too subtle where it's like you wouldn't notice it, but it's like it's a healthy amount where it's like self-explanatory. And I loved that about the book.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to see kind of more of that type of because I think it defaults to like Caucasian, it's like all these romances, and then if there's like heavily another type of ethnicity, it ends up being categorized as like, oh, this is like Asian American literature, this is like Hispanic literature, and so I think it would be nice to kind of incorporate that just as like something normal that pops up without having it to be like a separate category.
Yeah, definitely. Because then if you're trying to separate it so much, you're not making it normal. And that's also just as bad as not being represented, because we have to sit in this box. We can't be with everybody else. This is our sandbox and our sandbox alone. When there's a whole other park out there, I want to go down the slide too, but they won't let me. It just feels wrong, but yeah. So I did want to talk about this specific scene. You mentioned it a little bit. It's not the scene that you probably think, Maggie. But it was where Ava and Bridget get kidnapped. And we're seeing it from Alex's point of view. And then he thinks, where the hell is her bodyguard? I remember updating it. I'm just like, yeah, where is he? Is he coming? What happened there? And I'm like, I know the next book is about them. So I'm like, I'm hoping to get some arguments behind what happened between them. And then when he popped out, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like an action movie. And seeing that and take the other guy down. And to be honest, when I saw like Rhys like getting angry right there and like Alex kind of looking at him like, no, I'm angrier. But Rhys was also just like, well, I'm mad too. I was just like, oh, you guys are so cute. You guys will get along fine, grumpily, but fine. But yeah, what was kind of like your thought process between kind of overlapping some of the scenes and interweaving both storylines and time?
Yeah, so I mean, the kidnapping was always going to happen. That was always in the plot. And I had a choice kind of deciding basically who the lucky person was that got kidnapped with Ava. Which one of her friends would be the lucky one? And I ended up deciding, like I was thinking about the personalities and kind of where I wanted the rest of the storyline to go. And I think Bridget popped up, even though she was obviously the one that would have the most complications given who she was and, her protection. But I always knew that her and her bodyguard would clash. And what happens there, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but you can kind of see in that scene how
there's a book between the two of them.
Yeah. And so, like the whole part about her sneaking out behind his back and like kind of chafing at his overprotectiveness, obviously that will end up, spoiler alert, end up being a huge theme, at least like in part of Twisted Games and part of the tension between them, I think, in the beginning. And so when I was planning that out, that just ended up slotting in pretty neatly in that scene. I think neither Jules nor Stella would have really made as much sense to be her kidnapping partner, so to speak.
I definitely when I didn't see him in the scene, I was like, he's on the way. I was like, there's no way. I already knew. We didn't even have his POV. I was like, Rhys is definitely possessive over her. It's that hot bodyguard, he has to be already so possessive of her, and the fact that she got kidnapped, he's probably freaking out, and he's already thinking 1,000,001 ways to get her back. And I was like, when I didn't see him, I was like, oh, he's on the way. So I wasn't too scared. I was like, oh, Rhys, come save the day, daddy. But
Oh yeah.
But it was just kind of funny because I was like, of course it would be Bridget of all people. Bridget, the one with the protection detail. Yes, Ava was the intended target, but of course Bridget would be the one to set everything up for them to be captured. It's just her personality and I guess the restriction. She's always just going behind the back of her bodyguards and stuff. And so and since he's already possessive of her based on what I've read from Twisted Love, because I've not read Twisted Games yet, but seeing their interaction, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to read all this tension and then be like, ooh la la, I want this too. Maybe I'll hire my own bodyguard.
Oh man, yeah, I wish I had a bodyguard. I don't know what I would need them for, but I kind of want one now.
Yeah.
For something.
Tattooed, gray eyes.
Oh.
One question. How did you come up with the name Rhys? Because it's spelled, I don't want to relate it back to this, but I saw it and I was like, how it's spelled, I was like, it's like, please don't be inspired by Rhysand. Please don't be inspired, because my roommate's boyfriend's name is Rhys, but it's Reece. Kind of like Reese's Pieces is what I call him. Hi, Carly. Carly actually listens to the podcast. But yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, how did you come up with the name?
Coming up with names is actually, sometimes I have to think very hard to come up with a name, and then other times they just pop out at me. And I think for Rhys, I was trying to think of a name that was very kind of alpha, but also I don't know how to describe it. Like, it just gives me certain vibes. And I actually did not get his, it was actually not based on Rhysand, or Rhysand. Like, I don't know.
Rhys.
Rhysand. I don't know how to pronounce it actually. But that was always a name that I actually really liked even before I read Aklatar. I'm not sure where. So first time I ever heard it was actually Jonathan Rhys Meyers. I don't know if you know the actor. It's like part of his last name, and I was like, that's like a pretty hot name for a guy. And I just like, honestly, I just feel like the way it's spelled, Rhys, is, no offense to your roommate's boyfriend, but I just
better way. Yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck you, Rhys.
It's
like better way.
It's better than RE, like SE or RE.
I'll text him. I'll be like, do you want to change your name to RHYS? Or like, how are we gonna change your name? Because Carly, you lack it.
Just pretend it's spelled RHYS.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name is and reading it, I didn't tie him at all. I like, when you see it, okay.
The like, first time I saw it, I was like, oh.
But that's kind of like what it is with anything. Like, as soon as you see something for the first time, every time you see something similar to it, it'll remind you of that first time. That's how it is. And but no, I gotta say, he's 100 times better than.
I have a feeling Rhys is more Grace's type, because Alex is definitely, Alex is just the kind of character that I like, that like cold, off-standish person is definitely my type. And Grace is definitely into like the possessive alpha male, like the kind of guy that I probably think Rhys is gonna be. But we still have 2 more books. I still have to remind that, but
because I'm hoping, I don't want to tell us. I'm hoping that Josh gets one. And if Josh does, I feel like he's more my type, because he seems more goofy and funny and very like playful banter type, which is kind of my type too. But Rhys does speak to another side of me. And I will just say, out of the 2 so far, Rhys is definitely, he's made me emotional. And
I like how I'm looking at Twisted Hate, the Goodreads, and the one review for it is like, this is gonna be about Jules and Josh. I'm calling it. That's the one review. But my question is, have you is Twisted Hate, is Twisted Hate, are you still writing it, or is it done?
No, I'm still writing it. It's actually funny you should ask, because I actually spent today doing my research and my scene planning for Twisted Hate. And it'll be fun.
I guess this kind of like segues exactly into what I was going to ask you, is how long did it take you to write these books? Like, was this kind of like, was the first one like it took like a year, or like how long is it average for you to write these books?
So it actually, Twisted Love actually took me about a month to write it.
Wow.
It was very fast. And every book is different. Some books are a little more inspired than others. Twisted Love, I was just very, it's one of those books that came very easily to me, because I knew exactly what was about to happen. I knew how it was going to play out, and all I had to do was just write it out when I planned it. Twisted Games took me a little longer. So Twisted Games, I started in February, and then I kept on tweaking it all the way through like June. I was like crashing. I feel so bad for my editor, because I kept on going to her and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I have to push our deadline back. Because Twisted Games, I'm not gonna lie, we went through some stuff. I rewrote that story. I rewrote like huge chunks of that story, maybe like 5 times, and I had to scrap a lot of it. The way that it originally was planned is not at all the way that it ended up being now. The ending was completely different. The beginning, like honestly, everything was completely different. And so I had to keep writing and rewriting it. I was just not happy with the way that it was turning out in the original iteration. But I have some amazing alpha and beta readers who kind of helped me work through it. And so it ended up in a place that I was really happy with. But yeah, for Twisted Games, I say it took me like 4 months, I'd say. Twisted Hate, I'm hoping it's more like a Twisted Love situation where I can just, and a lot of the work goes into the pre-planning, so I do a lot of planning ahead of time in terms of the research. I write out all of the plot twists and the information ahead of time so that I don't spend a ton of time writing like all of these words only to get stuck in a corner. Sometimes that doesn't work out the way, because I would end up writing a story and it just takes a completely left turn and I'm like, I didn't plan for this, I have no idea what's happening. But I think the longest I ever took to write a book was probably If We Ever Meet Again, which is the first book in my other series, very different series from Twisted.
Yeah, it definitely is, just based on the covers alone.
Yeah, very, very different. And it's funny because I actually wrote the first draft of If We Ever Meet Again on Wattpad. I used to be on Wattpad like 10 years ago, like right when it first started. And I completely changed that. It took me years, honestly, to rewrite If We Ever Meet Again for publication. I took a very long break from writing just because of life, and I had grad school and I got a job and all of that. So that took me like 3 years probably to rewrite that entire thing, but everything else came much faster. So it's like a muscle. You just have to, just like,
so are you have definitely blown up on TikTok and stuff now, on BookTok, and like, are you hoping that this becomes more of like your permanent job or are you wanting to keep it more as like a side hustle, or has it always been like your plan to like make this like a full-time job?
Yeah, so I would definitely love to do this full-time one day. I'm very grateful for all of the love that BookTok has shown my books, and I was not expecting I was not expecting the reception that Twisted Love got after it came out, and it's been amazing. But and I probably wouldn't go full-time, probably not within the next year or two. I'm very like cautious in terms of my finances. And so being an author is it's not as like stable, like some months you do very well and then some months you do not so well. And so for me, I like to at least have a little bit more of a financial cushion in terms, before I become full-time. But I do eventually hope that one day I will become like a full-time author. This is what I like. I'm just not really feeling the office life that
literally
much
me getting my
these
accounting
days.
degree right now. Like, I'm getting my accounting degree, and like my goal would obviously be to like be a full-time writer and stuff, but like I'm a full-time student at the moment. And but I have my accounting degree. I like doing accounting and stuff, but like I don't really want to be in office for the rest of my life. But like I have that thing where it's like it's a fallback. It's a default. If I can write while I'm working and I can like promote, like, because like TikTok and stuff, like, yeah, it does take me a couple hours sometimes where I like get full face makeup ready for like to film a bunch of TikToks and stuff. But like the social media and like being able to like promote stuff on social media now is easy. And like, as you can see, like Twisted Love really blew up for you. And then we see the downfall of it, of piracy. And recently you found, was it some video that they were talking about Twisted Love, or can you kind of explain the situation that happened? Because I saw your friends only video about it.
Yeah, so I saw like 2 videos pop up in my FYP, and they were both like, the videos themselves were like promoting Twisted Love, which is great to see. But then like in the comments, it would be like a lot of people being like, where can I get the free EPUB for this, or like the free PDF? And then like one of the videos, the girl who posted the video was like, oh, I read this on this specific like pirate site. And so of course, like everyone like everyone in the comments can see that and see where to get that. And then the other video, the girl is just straight up like, I can DM you, just like, fuck. Like, I can just send it to you in like your DMs. So, which is not great. And I've also had like people come into my DMs asking me where they can download like a free EPUB. And I'm like, I don't know if sometimes I'm like, some of these people, I'm like, I don't know if you know that I didn't authorize these EPUBs. Because some of them I think they know exactly what they're doing, and then some other people I'm like, I'm not sure if like you're confused and you think that like the author is okay and like they actually put their books up at these sites, and you just think for some reason like it's free to download, and they're like a little confused. So, but that's not fun. So I think piracy is a huge issue. Obviously, it's a hot button issue on the app. I feel like every few months.
Yeah, I think especially when it like there's a difference with like J.K. Rowling, who we all know is like a very problematic person and we don't want to support her. There's a difference between pirating like her books, where she's already made millions upon millions of dollars on it, and a couple thousand people like reading it on a website. But like the fact that you are a very small indie author, you have a side, like this isn't even, you probably can't even make this your full-time job, and the fact that like people are acknowledge like actively like promoting pirating is like, it's theft. It is point blank period theft. And Grace and I actually got really heated last night. It was like 2 a.m. and we were talking about this on our meeting for our store, and I was getting so heated because like you put a lot of effort into this. You put months of work into this. And for people to just be able to not pay for it, and I kind of equated it to, on booktok there's this huge thing about crediting artists, like crediting artists for their artwork and giving authors the acknowledgement of like tagging them or saying where you've gotten a piece of artwork from, because that's theft if you don't. Same thing goes with piracy. If you are like, you going to an unknown website, downloading this and reading it, you are stealing from the author, because there's unauthorized content that you are using, and it is theft, and that's why it is illegal, and you have copyright claims and stuff for your books for that purpose. And it's like, I've noticed, I've been following people and they like talk about like it's like very classist to say, and it's like, but these are like small indie authors who, even for them, that's like hurting their bottom line for you to go and read it somewhere else. And like it's on Kindle. It's like $4 on Kindle, right? It's like $3.99 right now. And I'm like, I know this is gonna be a really controversial take, so anybody who like finds this video and takes this, I'm sorry, but like if you can't afford to buy that, there are so many other free books. Like, yes, it is a trend to read this. I understand that, and you want to be in the hype. FOMO is a real thing, but there are so many other free books on Kindle, and also a lot of authors will sometimes make their books free with Kindle Unlimited, or even making it fully free on Kindle, like $0. And that doesn't excuse you to just pirate it. Because it's that you are stealing from especially like you and like Penelope Douglas just posted a thing where literally it wasn't just stealing, they were using it to win awards.
Yeah, I saw that post today and I was like, wow, that's like a whole other level of just boldness. Like, not only to read something, on a pirate site, which, like she said, like, obviously I do not condone that and it's very harmful, but to actually like take her words and pass them off as your own and try to take credit for it is like a whole other level of, that's like straight up plagiarizing and like fraud, like beyond piracy. And I do feel like what she said was right in that they seem to have gone bolder these past few. I mean, like, pirates have always existed, but they do really seem to have like gotten a lot bolder in like this past year. And I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I hope it stops.
It really sucks because it's like we understand that there's people who don't have access to books and whatnot, and you do feel for those people who aren't able to have like the same accessibility as us here, but it's also, like we said, authors put so much work, and sometimes it's that all of that work doesn't even get to go that far because they're self-publishing, they're indie authors, they don't have these big publishing companies behind them that can push their work out and get so much more income from it. And it's like a thing of like, if you give someone an inch, they'll end up taking a mile. And that's how I feel like it goes with a lot of these piracy kind of like little websites and things like that, because it's like it won't just stop with these problematic authors. It won't just stop with oh, it's just one time, or it's just this one book that I don't have access to. It will go so far from that to where the publishing companies are already, the book industry is already taking a huge hit. Not many people are buying as many books. It's already a business that's dwindling. It's not, it can't take too much, you know. And then we have all of these other authors who are just starting off or who are pushing up their good and amazing books like Twisted Love, and then we have people turning around and promoting for people to steal it. That's why, like, as soon as like anybody comments anything on any of my videos, as soon as I see it in my notifications, I'm like, no, you don't, the other person does not even get to see the reply of this link. Like, no, it's not gonna be a thing, because it's not fair and it's not right, because no one knows where the boundary is to stop. So it's better just not do it.
Yeah, I agree. And about the comment thing, I think one of the things that I do, I put my comment filters on for my account, and this was for everyone. I screen out words like PDF, EPUB, the name of a certain pirate site, which we may or may not be familiar with.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I screened those out so I don't even see them. But yeah, I sometimes I see that on comment sections of like creators would recommend a certain video, and then there will be comments like, where can I read this? And you know, there was one time where it was very frustrating because I was on the comment section of one of those videos, and you know, it was a great video, and they were like talking about, there was a recommendation for Twisted Love, and then someone was like, oh, where can I, they didn't actually ask to read it for free. They're like, oh, where can I buy this? And then someone went and commented, and they're like, you don't have to buy it, you can read it for free here. So it's not even like that person that they're commenting to didn't have accessibility, like they were willing to pay money for it, and then someone went in and be like, don't pay for this, just like pirate it. Yeah. Which is like, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking online. Like I'm opening up to Twisted Games, and I bought mine for $15, which is a normal price for a book. It's pretty average, but like it's Kindle Unlimited. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. It's actually $14.58 right now. It was $10.50 earlier today.
Amazon does weird things with the pricing. Like I don't do that.
Yeah, like, but I was like, I literally was like, I should have just gotten it, or maybe it was last night. I think it was because I was talking with Grace, but I was like, it's $10. But Kindle Unlimited, like, yes, I know you can. The free trial ends, but you can just make more accounts. Like, if you really like don't want to pay for Kindle Unlimited, just do like or like sometimes they do like 3 months for 99 cents.
Yeah, they have great
things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with Kindle Unlimited, it's like the number of pages that the reader reads.
Yeah,
that's how
they get paid per page read. So when you download a book, it helps with the sales rank, but then authors don't actually get paid until you start reading the book, and then they get paid a certain amount per page read. And you know, like even if someone doesn't have access to Kindle Unlimited, a lot of authors, especially small indie authors, like they are looking to grow their ARC team, and they will give you a free review copy of their book in exchange for a review, which is like the easiest way to, you know, like to get that. Or like sign up for newsletters like BookBub, Free Booksy. They will send you daily deals with like free books, and a lot of these are like big name books. There's just a lot of ways that are legal that people can access reading without.
And a lot of the people who are pirating are minors.
Yeah,
like that is majority of people who are reading these on those like websites and stuff are people who are minors. And I'm not trying to like regulate what minors read, but you have to keep that in mind, that like your majority of these people who are like reading online like free books and pirating and stuff are people who it's not the intended audience, and that's why they're downloading it illegally and reading it illegally, because it's not meant for them. Like this age range for this book, like I mean, like you can be 17 and buy this book. I don't care. I don't care what you do with your life. That's on you. But like perpetuating the idea of pirating and stuff just also perpetuates that younger audiences are reaching this. Because it's been like statistically proven that like younger audiences are the ones who are doing the piracy. Because like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've pirated one book. I pirated one book because I didn't know I didn't know better. I didn't know, and then I learned. And I mean, I've also pirated movies before, but that was also like Pride and Prejudice Zombies, which I like rewatched like so many times until I actually bought the movie, because I literally watch it like 5 times a year. And I was like, I hate going to like Google Docs and like finding this. I need to just buy the movie. So I just bought it. But like, I will admit, I'm the first one to admit, like I did pirate before, but I've learned the business side, and I understand where like smaller indie authors are, it hurts their bottom line and it hurts your livelihood sometimes, depending on who it is. And I'll fully accept that I did wrong, but like, don't promote it. Like, don't promote it.
Yeah. Like, don't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's, I think piracy is one of the things that authors, it kind of comes with the business. Like, it's going to happen. You can't really stop it. And a lot of authors I know just, like it's a cost of doing business, but it does really hurt the bottom line, especially of the small authors. But the way that it's been, like I've seen a video promoting a certain website that had like almost 1 million views, right? And a clearly illegal website, which I don't think TikTok knows what that is, because, a bunch of authors reported it for promoting illegal activity, and TikTok was like, this is not illegal. Even though it is. And so it's like, if you're gonna do it, don't like blast it out there. Like, don't go to the author being like, how can you help me steal your work? Like, that's just a whole, I don't know. I feel like that's just like a whole other level of boldness.
Thing. Yeah. You wouldn't. Why would you ask the author that you're taking it from? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, because like, especially since you put so much effort into this and you're putting your money into this, and to have somebody be like, hey, like, I want this for free. Give it to me for free. Yeah. Illegally. And you're like I'm friends with Elise Kova, and she showed like the amount of downloads from one piracy site, and she was like, I would have made this much money if they actually bought it from me. And I was like,
yeah.
That's like a semester of tuition for me. Like, that's a lot of money. And it feels icky too. Like, after I finished reading the book that I pirated, I was like, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that it was like a Kindle Unlimited, and I had Kindle that time, and I was like, I could have just read this and gave the author the credit that they deserve. Because like, putting out a book, no matter how bad, quote unquote bad it is, authors still put in effort. You still put in work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work no matter what.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, period.
Yeah.
But transitioning to some lighter topics, well, I wanted to ask you some fun and lighthearted things during your writing process. Are you the type of writer who snacks, or are you the type of writer who sips? I don't want to say drinks, because that sounds, I mean, you could.
I mean, you can drink water, Grace.
I know, but it just sounds.
You're making it sound like
Anyways.
so, like...
Anyways, do you snack or do you drink? Are you a drinker or are you a snacker?
I'm a drinker. I cannot eat. Like, I get very distracted. Like, when I'm eating, like the only thing I can do when I'm eating is like watch TV. Honestly,
that's the
otherwise. Yeah, it's the munchies. When I write, I always have to have a drink with me, probably either like tea or like a chai or matcha latte. Those are like my go-to drinks. It just makes me more productive. I don't know what it is about having like a cup next to me.
Yeah, it kind of feels, it no matter how grown up you are, having like a coffee while you're there working in your office just makes you feel even more grown up.
It
Like,
does.
I don't know what it is about that, but having like your specific like office mug right there next to you while you're doing your work just makes you seem so much more productive. And I don't know if it's like having watched so many movies while being a kid and watching TV and seeing these like women and these men doing work, and then they have their mug right there and you just like, I'm gonna do that one day. Probably.
I've made it. I'm sitting at my computer with a coffee mug and I'm doing work. And that's
I made it. This is the high point of my life. Oh yeah. I'm definitely a snacker. I don't know what it is. I have to munch. I can't.
I'm definitely a drinker. I'm a drinker too. I always have to have like something like, I was about to say I also have to be swallowing something, but that just sounds so wrong. But I think that's perfect for this genre.
it goes with it goes with the genre theme.
It goes with the theme of my whole page. That should be Grace. That should be a t-shirt. I'm always swallowing something, and then maybe like a wine glass.
Or no. Terrible.
Grace, I think we should do it.
She's thinking about it. Look at her face.
Grace is like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just thinking about it. I'm not gonna do it. I did it. That's what it's. That should be the sound.
Okay. Sheesh, I had another fun, lighthearted question. I couldn't remember.
I just threw in my penis jokes, so it makes everything better. My swallowing joke
totally sidetracked me. I can't think of anything else.
Gotta keep you on your toes, Grace.
It's fine. It's totally good. So you're for sure planned for a quartet in this series.
Yes.
Which is kind of sad because there are more characters popping up, and I am curious about
novellas. Have you ever thought about writing novellas?
Oh yeah.
You're not the first person who's asked me that. I don't want to confirm anything.
So you're confirming what I'm hearing.
No. Do not hold it. So it is for sure 4 books.
Okay.
If I were to do a novella, maybe it would not be. If I were to do a novella, it would not be a new couple.
Okay.
It would be either. I don't want to say. It would be about existing characters. So probably. I mean, I also have 2 new series that I am already thinking about before I finish the Twisted series, which I am excited about. So I have a lot of things.
I'll just be checking your Goodreads like every couple days and be like, oh,
subscribe to newsletter and refreshing every day.
Yes.
So will we be seeing more of Alex and Ava in the other 2 series? Sprinkle in a couple of moments, even if they're
books, not series, books. Grace.
I mean, in the in the rest of this series. That's what I meant.
Yes.
You said the series.
I know. And don't
you put your S wrong?
Yeah, I did. It's okay.
They will definitely be popping up, especially in one book. I think they will play a bigger role than they have. Perhaps.
I was right. So it is Josh.
They will play a bigger role than they have in Twisted Games, just because of certain things that happen.
Josh. Okay. Yes. Yeah. You can just say that. You don't have to confirm it, but that's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm getting from this.
Hey, she still hasn't finished writing, so we never know. It could pop up.
Expect my weekly email.
If you need some inspo, let us know. We always have
I will keep that in mind for sure.
Scenarios.
Grace is just like, yeah.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Like you just sort of like we'll tell you the whole plot. If you don't want to write the 4th book and give it to us, we'll just take it.
for you.
Oh my gosh. If only.
Yeah.
So for all of our listeners, kind of wrapping this up, we have we have Twisted Love, which is on Kindle Unlimited. You can go ahead and read that. Hopefully you have read that before listening to this whole episode. And then when you guys listen to this, Twisted Games will have been released already. You can get it on Amazon paperback, and it will also be available on Kindle Unlimited. And
It has discrete covers as well. So for YouTube, I have the male models.
male models.
And like, I'm just
they're special.
But the spines,
The spines are gorgeous.
I
Props to my designer, my cover designer, all of them.
I love the spines. I posted on my Instagram story. I was like, the spines, I just love them. Oh. I'm very like it's so aesthetic. Like the fact that they're like all the same. Well, they're not the same height because I'm like twisting them around, but twisted, huh? Twisted love. Okay, sorry. But like the fact that like all of them like match and stuff, and it's just so
very clean and uniform.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm definitely the type of person to like, now that I have Kindle Unlimited, I'll read a series on Kindle Unlimited, and if I fall in love, I am dying to get my hands on the physical copy. Because Kindle Unlimited, you read it and then you have to return it. Mm-hmm. But with some certain series, I have to have them in physical. So I think you have convinced me to get the male models because they just look.
Well, see, I might get I love this series so much that I might get the discrete covers too.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about it too.
I saw the twisted. I was like, okay, I saw the twisted hate, like the like hate thing on Goodreads, and I was like, I might get both. I was like, because like the discrete covers are white,
yeah,
and these ones are black, and I'm like, that will look good on my bookshelf. I'll just have like a little
contrast,
and then I'll just have like a big haul from you, and then I'll have like just a shelf on my bookshelf, just dedicated to you.
I'm honored.
Very honored. Yeah, for sure. So for our listeners, we have a very special little treat for you. Ana is being a very gracious sport for us, and she is willing to read the first page of Twisted Games.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this first line, I wish I had written something different.
I didn't even open the book. I didn't even I don't like reading blurbs or anything, so I don't even know I never read blurbs and stuff for the book. I literally saw the cover and I was like, okay, I want to read this. That's my whole thing. I didn't know anything about the book. So when I opened up this first page and I read it, I was like,
what?
And my listeners, get ready for what she's going to tell you because it's going to be interesting.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to read this short little page. Okay. I'm sorry.
We're just all laughing.
I'm thinking about the fact that my roommates are in the other room.
Full send, just full send. You wrote it. You have to say it now.
You got it.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read it. I'm sorry, you might have to edit this out.
No, you're good.
Okay. Thank me. Masters, thank me. I stifled a laugh on my bodyguard Booth's face as Leather the parrot squawked in his cage. The parrot's name said all you needed to know about its previous owner's sex life, and while some found him amusing, Booth did not. He hated birds. He said they reminded him of giant flying rats. One day, he and Leather are going to get into it. Emma, the director of Wags and Whiskers, clucked her tongue. Poor Booth. I held back another laugh even as I felt a small pang in my heart. Probably not. Booth's leaving soon. I tried not to think about it. Ruth had been with me for 4 years, but he was leaving for paternity leave next week and staying in Eldora after to be closer to his wife and newborn. I was happy for him, but I would miss him. He was not only my bodyguard, but a friend, and I could only hope his replacement and I had the same rapport. Ah, yes, I forgot. Emma's face softened. She was in her early 60s, with short, gray-streaked hair and warm brown eyes. Lots of changes for you in a short time, my dear. She knew how much I hated goodbyes. Do you want me to read a little more, or
You can go as far as you want.
no, I'm not gonna read. I'm not gonna read. Well, I mean, I won't read. I won't be able to read far enough that Rhys comes onto the page.
You could, if you are up for it, read a quick paragraph of one of your favorite scenes.
Yes. Do you have a favorite scene?
I don't think I can. I can read one of my favorite scenes out loud.
Whoa.
I'm blushing a little bit and I haven't even seen it or read it yet.
Yeah, it's a certain scene after a certain reception. I'm not reading that out loud.
Grace, is that?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm absolutely.
Wait. I have the perfect thing for this.
Good. You're.
Oh my god, that's a beautiful pants.
I got it from Hawaii.
I'm very jealous.
Oh,
It's so pretty.
okay. I needed this earlier. I turned off my fan, so like I'm kind of like overheating. That's why my face is so red, and then we're talking about this, and I'm just like,
It's the best. I gotta say, this is like the dream though, to like read a book that you love so much and be able to talk to the author about it.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. And then thank you for like putting up with all of my reactions and my DMs.
Of course. I love it. Honestly, I love seeing readers' reactions as they're reading a book. It's just very rewarding for me.
mm-hmm.
As a author.
Good.
Don't be afraid to slide into my DMs.
Perfect. So I think we're going to wrap up our episode, and thank you guys for listening, and make sure you guys go ahead and order or go ahead and read on Kindle Unlimited Twisted Games, and look out for the rest of the Twisted series. And
We'll have everything linked down below. We'll have the Goodreads. We'll have the Amazon links down below. So you can just click. For our YouTube listeners, you can just click and go purchase it, and then you can read it because y'all will all love this. So
you will love it. As someone who had to put it down reluctantly for this recording.
She was literally reading it right before.
I was literally reading it right before. I don't know. It was, and it's so good. I love it. And I'm so excited for the rest of the series, and so excited for everyone else to be able to read this book and through its twists and turns. And yeah, so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was so much fun talking to you guys. I really enjoyed talking about it with you, and you're very fun to hang out with. So
thank you.
Thank
you to everybody who's listened. We have our shop stuff also linked down below, so don't forget to go check that out. We have our pre-orders for our pins. Also follow our shop Instagram. We're gonna be pushing out more bookish stuff. This one was very, very centered in the ACOTAR FBAA fandom, but we're also gonna be releasing some smutty stuff, so stay on the lookout for that.
You might be hearing us announce a Team Alex pin or a
we might do the Twisted series inspired something. We don't know. So we'll keep you updated, but thank you everybody, and have a good rest of your evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.